welcome to our third sitting with this all-puzzle superworld of 21 puzzle courses by Seanhip2. We have thus far completed 8 of the 21 puzzles. The last session went a little bit slowly, thanks in part to sitting around entirely too long with a puzzle that we had solved all but one step, only I was spending about 2 hours or more looking for one last interactable element, which turned out, spoiler alert, to be a slope. So hopefully we'll be a little more efficient today when it comes to spotting things that are actually playable on the screen and less prone to execution errors, which significantly extend the last puzzle that we played last time as well. And we'll see how many we get through in this sequence today, beginning with what seems to be the last one in World 2, unless it pops open something else after. So let's take a look at puzzle number 9 in the sequence. Springtime. Reach the goal after grabbing at least 5 coins. A couple of one-ups for Endless, for those stocking up on that kind of thing. And here's the puzzle itself. You fall immediately into a platform that falls. Sometimes there might be relevant information just in the initial state of the screen. I don't know that we're going to be at any point reloading back into it, though. But let's take a look at this carefully. We see the goal on the right side. That will be a couple of coins to collect. Is it all 5 or at least 5? It is at least 5. We don't know how many coins the various question blocks are going to include, and it may be possible that what we're actually doing is collecting coins off of the 3 turn blocks that get transformed by P-switches as well, so that's something we'll have to keep an eye on when the time comes. It looks like we'll need to blow up 2 things using bombs. There's that top bomb that blows up the block that heads over to the goal. There's also going to be another segment down here where we need to break down the lower wall in order to get up to the right side column in the first place. There's a one-way panel under the initial door, so we're not going back in there. It's not like we're going to be bouncing on top of anything. Now, the thing is there any reason not to just grab the first coin? Why would it just be sitting here? Unless, of course, it needs to struck some other movement that we need to work with later. I'm not sure. Regardless, we need to find a way towards having a P-switch. We see right away that I can take the spring over to the right side, and that the P-switch we would need to be careful with, because I think we need to open our way up to it and be in a position where we can hit the P-switch and yet be able to go further. So here's what I'm looking at right now, is that you jump up here. This we can knock down with an up throw. And then the P-switch we can also press with an up throw if we want to lock ourselves into this position. Now the issue there is if we take the P-switch, well, if we hit the P-switch, then 2 turn blocks turn into coins, potentially. And then we have the rightmost coin turn into a block. Why would we want that? We want eventually some way to hit a question block over to the top left, and it looks very much like it's going to be a very likely up throw. Notice, too, that you can pop out the top of the screen through that semi-solid on the top left side. I don't exactly know how it's going to go yet, but I think the first thing we need to do is we need to check, is this just a regular turn block? It is. It seems like it's going to be pretty significant. And moreover, if we hit the P-switch, then what is our continuation? We would grab 2 coins, and then we'd have nothing else to interact with at that point, would we? So likely what needs to happen here is, well, we know, but no, that's a mistake. We know potentially that if we jump up to the turn block Or rather, well, if we knock down with up throws alone, then we're able to... Oh, there's a Buzzy Beetle that stands at the start here. That's interesting. Because I wonder if there is any way to leave the room at this point. So, for example, if there's some way to acquire the bomb on the top right twice, for instance, once to break the surrounding blocks and once to break the hard blocks at the bottom, there is some implication that we need to maybe get out to the top and respawn into this room, because I don't know what else the Buzzy Beetle would be doing. Let's restart just to take a look. And Mario, thank you so much for wishing me a happy affiliate anniversary. I had almost forgotten. Imagine that. We've been doing this for about 6 years. So yeah, notice the Buzzy Beetle right at the beginning here. That looks really important. That we might need to maybe spawn it back on screen at some point, where the Buzzy Beetle falls. It outpaces the player in the beginning, in that it starts below the panel, and so you can't actually reach it. But notice that you're able to scroll quite a ways off screen here. You're able to scroll off screen. You can reload the beetle. So that's interesting, because it implies to me that we can bounce it on this thing here. There we go. And that is why you would want to load things over. Now, the thing is this implying to me that I might need a shell jump at some point? Now, it does conveniently leave the beetle in the bottom left slot, so I can actually use it. But you can imagine that potentially that you would actually want a way to walk the beetle over with the P-switches. Now, of course, we can also just pop the shell at this point and carry it over. If we want to carry it over, then we have a way to hit the question block on top and see at least what it is. We should inspect what it is, and not by falling off that precipice. So we know one useful step already that we can interact with, which is this down. Now the question is there any reason to leave this coin intact? Because that's something that we have to figure out. But anyway, let's drop the beetle. Yeah, it walks back. And then, ideally, what we can do here is we can just soft drop it on this side. Grab the spring. Let's bump it again so we have the ability to use it. I just want to check what the question block up top is. I don't know if it's a second bomb. It might be. It is a second bomb. And that's important because it's not ignited. It's important because it also trades this beetle. And we might not want to trade the beetle if we need to use it again. It might very well be the case that we need to jump off the beetle and load a different object like the spring. I don't know if we have sufficient height to do it, but regardless, we have to trade an object into the bomb on this side. I see that we would need a way to walk the bomb over when we hit that. Now, if we have a way to walk the bomb over, then we're able to bust down this side over here. Notice that igniting the other bomb, probably through an up throw of an object through the wiggler to the question block. Question block will spawn something that hits the bomb. And if it's a bomb crush in that location, then it drops the muncher for another P-switch. You would need a P-switch to expire in order to get over to the right side. Regardless, we haven't really been thinking about the clear condition, because you will need to grab everything off these blocks as well. Now, if we hit the P-switch manually over here, then you got a bomb walk on the left side, and you're able to at least grab that coin, and then subsequently the one to its right. There's also some implication here, I think, that whichever object you toss up there, while it can't obstruct your way to go up top, it is possible to do, of course, a shell jump to get up to that location if the spring has already been expended, but we probably shouldn't depend on that. And that we might need a bit of a smoother route to get up there, because we're slightly short on objects at the moment. Notice we still have a beetle available, even after having activated the bomb. Because if Mario isn't the one defeating the beetle, if it just kind of walked off previously, then we're able to get another one. That's really significant, actually. That seems extremely important. because that potentially solves the problem of doing something like this and getting back out. Now, if the shell drops at this point, since Mario was the one firing it, I don't think we can count on getting it back. Can we? Yeah, no, we can get it back. So yeah, if it just falls off, then we can get as many shells as we want. Which is great, because then it potentially solves the problem of hitting that block on the right, as well as the shell jump. So the thing we have to fix right now is we need to find a way to walk the bomb down here. If we can figure out that step, then we just reload as many buzzies as we want in order to fill all the other interactions. Also, we will need, after a remote P-switch interaction, a way to stand over here, potentially. Because if we stand over here, then we're able to run through the P-switch and grab that other coin. If we're not standing over there, then we would need some kind of object that is picking up the coins for us. And I don't exactly know how that'll work, because you have a P-switch. I think we jump the shell. Let me just check the height off jumping the shell just here normally. Because, let's say we jump. No, it doesn't quite reach. Now, and of course at this point, having killed it, we aren't going to get another one. But if it falls, it will respawn, so. What we can do is try to shell jump it. I don't know if shell jump is necessarily something that's going to be required in a puzzle sequence like this one, but it's too available not to at least account for it in the design, that even if you don't require the player to do a shell jump, you have to account for the players who will. Oh, whoops. That was a mistake. Then you're able to get another one if it merely falls off. And oh, we need to leave it there until it goes to the left side slot. And here, we're able to press the P-switch using the shell. Now, if we press the P-switch using the shell, the shell stays alive and thus is not going to respawn yet on the left side. We don't want to let it go like that, obviously. But if we basically do the double up throw with the shell to hit the P-switch, at that point we have not spawned the bomb yet. Now, the good thing, though, is that if we do the shell activation of the bomb, that once we hit the P-switch, I think we're able to drop the shell off and get another one. The trick right now is, though, is that with the P-switch active, we need to find a way to get that bomb and bring it over here. One possible way to do it is to leave the spring in place on this side. Although that would require a second shell, because the idea is that if the bomb falls off onto the spring, then it's able to bounce up into this location and continue walking while the P-switch is active. We're kind of short one thrown object to make that sequence happen right now, in the way that I would imagine. We'll worry about the clear condition last. Let's just try to figure out the logic of what's walking where first, and then we'll sort out the rest. Yeah, because we want to grab that, drop the first shell. And here's the thing, if you activate the P-switch, that locks you out on the right side. There's no reason to activate a P-switch, I think, until we have sorted out while getting the bomb out of there. So let's think about this for a moment. So let's try to avoid hitting the P for a moment. Basically, we want some way to activate P-switch. Let's not jump on it by mistake. We'll... Oh, nope. My mistake. Was trying to up throw it. Yeah, so we want the Buzzy Beetle to wake up before we hit anything like the P-switch, because we want the Buzzy Beetle to drop all the way to the bottom when the time comes. But unfortunately, we can't despawn the shell at that point, and so we would need some different way to hit the P-switch. And some... Well, let's try this. What if you did P-switch and a run? Oh, not quite, because you would need a little bit more height. Yeah, that doesn't quite do it. You'd have to jump, and I wonder if you can actually beat the P-switch going left. I think the timing would be too tight for that. I don't expect that would work. We mustn't rule it out completely, but... Yeah, essentially the issue right now is that one Buzzy Beetle is going to be docked over at the question block, and the bomb is going to spawn. And then we need a way to hit the P-switch, but keep the bomb alive. And unfortunately, the bomb is going to drop straight off down here before we are able to get to it because of the way that we've been locked over on the right side. So that means that we need to rethink this a little bit in terms of what is actually going to hit the question block. Now, it is quite possible that if we use the spring to hit the question block, the issue is that we would lose access to it completely, and that's something that's not going to respawn for us. At least it wouldn't scroll in a position where that would be doable. So Buzzy Beetle, I think, has to be the object that hits the question block. I don't see another way to do it. But if a bomb is going to walk down, we need some way for the bomb to fall safely, because otherwise it just falls straight down here into the pit. And the Buzzy Beetle follows, which is okay if you're trying to get another one, but then the issue right now is that the P-switch is activated, and we are locked on this side. We're locked on this side while the bomb walks down. The alternative is, if we can in fact get this timing for a P-switch to hit while walking across. I don't know if that's really executable. That seems a little too fussy to actually be the solution. It looks like the spacing probably deliberately prevents that, if I had to guess. But we can try... Yeah, you see, it doesn't quite work. You would need to fall just a little bit faster into that. Now, then the question should be that if that P-switch is at that point... So here's something that might be important. Maybe the reason that you wouldn't want to grab this coin right away is because that if you turn it into a block, then you are able to disable something above it. For example, if you have a shell, like a Buzzy shell that is lodged above it, and it wakes up, then you bop this, and then you can turn it upside down. If you flip it upside down, then you have the wake up interaction that bounces up a block. Now, why would you possibly want to use that? I'm not sure. But it may be possible that we need to leave this in place because we need to turn it into a block that can be hit. And if it can be hit, then maybe it's supposed to disable something above, or do something else to reposition it. I don't currently see how that would be useful, but we'll find out. The other thing too is that using the first Buzzy shell, we can actually collect this right side coin right away and not worry about it. That might even be the first thing in the sequence when we eventually stitch coins together. Let's actually try a little thing here. So we launch this over here. Scroll back. And let's just go back and pick that up. And then that's okay, we can just get another shell. So yeah, the first coin here is essentially free. So we just don't need to worry about it because we can always just reload that first shell whenever we want. Now, the thing is, if I use that first shell, is there a way for me to get back up here? What I can do, well, I can't destroy the shell, because I destroyed a shell, then it doesn't come back, but... So I'm thinking that if you have a way to have a shell over here, and then have a P-switch activation by way of something like a shell jump, you have shell jump, then a shell flies away and falls, and then it can get reloaded, but then Mario is in a position where I'm able to hit the P-switch with the spring in this position. Why would we want that? Because it potentially allows you to walk a second shell to the right side. And why would we want that? The way I'm seeing it, we need a way for a shell to actually hit the P-switch by itself, almost. Well, the first priority needs to be getting rid of this, because then we have the second P-switch activation available for us afterwards. But essentially, if we're able to have a situation where Mario is able to either A, collect the bomb, or B, have a bomb bounce off the spring and walk itself over, so a bomb walks itself over here without being ignited. That's the ideal situation. We want a bomb to walk it through, and if it's bouncing off the top wall here and falling before it hits the gap, it should be able to hit a spring, jump up here, and continue. That means, though, that we need this. That we need bomb out of the question block, we need spring here, and we need to hit the P-switch. The reason that we can't use a shell to hit a P-switch at that time is because the shell will be docked under the question block where the bomb has spawned. Unless we find some way to hit that question block and still find some way to perhaps get rid of the shell. Or find some other way to get Mario up here to hit the P-switch manually. So for example, if Mario is able to get up to the top and then hit the shell and then hit, or rather then toss the shell and then hit a P-switch, you still kind of have the same problem where you don't have a way to get the spring over here. We're still missing one object. I feel like loading in an extra shell is absolutely going to be part of this somehow. And it may even be that the P-switch needs to be activated first, and then you release a bomb. Depending on the timing, if the bomb can actually make it over within 10 seconds. Because I feel like we need to do something like expend the shell up here and then remove it and then get a new one. If you get a new one, if you hit a P-switch first, then a shell is able to walk its way over to this side. And then it would be trapped in this area while the P-switch is active. Still leads to a couple of logical problems, I think. Because I'm thinking about whether we have an interaction that would be possible. Well, yeah, because if you have, for example, a bomb wake up under the cloud, it's going to hop, it goes up 2 spaces. I don't think it will chain any kind of activation by itself there, though. So yeah, we can always just get another one. Then play around with it here. So for example, let's say we do some kind of interaction with it here. We go back and then, oh. And then we can get another one. If a P-switch is active at the time, then it walks through. So then you have the situation where, let's say we hit a P-switch by way of doing shell jump, get up here, shell goes away. You hit a P-switch manually. By that point, a second Buzzy Beetle will be able to come over here and walk across. But then I would be stuck on top while you have a second beetle down here. So is there a way to perhaps activate this P-switch from this position? And then send a Buzzy Beetle across here while we are trapped. Well, I think eventually you need to be in this box. Or rather, you need a bomb to walk to this box. Like, I think the thing that needs to be the end state here is a bomb goes down, walks into this box. We need to try a few different sequences here. Well, not without a P-switch we don't, so let's start over. And yeah, we'll just add that interaction with the right side coin after everything else is done. Well, let's take this for the time being, although I do think that's suspicious. I don't think it's potentially to be used as a block. Maybe you're even supposed to have a P-switch activated and... Well, is Mario ever going to be on the left side with the P-switch activated? That's the thing. The only way that could be done is if you do, in fact, have something like that and get through in time, which I think is exceedingly tight. I really don't believe that will be it, but one never knows. Here's the thing. A bomb, or rather a shell wake-up on top of this block here should actually hit the P-switch. But in order to do that, we need a first P-switch in order to convert this block. No, we don't. No, we don't. Because we can have a shell docked here, and then we pop it, and then the shell wake-up hits the P-switch. Here's the problem. If the shell wake-up hits the P-switch, we don't have a way to spawn a bomb yet. Do we? However, we have a way to dock the spring over here. I don't know about that, because we still don't have a way to walk the bomb over. Basically, we need to have the question block activated, P-switch is on, bomb walks down here, drops on this. So imagine that we're using the shell to activate the P-switch, then where should Mario be standing at the time? Well, it gives Mario the flexibility to stand somewhere else, for example, just on the left here. And we can do that even if the spring is still in this location. So you could run through here, grab the coin, come down to the spring, get back up to the shell, and then use it to spawn the bomb while the P-switch is active. Actually, that may be it. That may be it. There is a problem with this, which is... oh, that's okay, because if you... oh, I don't know about that, because... that still creates the problem of how to get the bomb over. Because the middle has been taken out at that time. You have the spring in this position. You would need to get it back into this position to escort the bomb. Well, let's go back and try it. Let's just actually do this sequence to see if the shell wake-up idea even works. Let's just leave it up here for the moment. Get the wake up. And then we're going to soft drop it on top of that block on the left over here, carefully, without hitting the P-switch. So the idea is that we let it wake. We can even pop it like this. It's a little off-center, so I think it might hit the ceiling here, but if it does the wake up, it should actually hit the P. Oh, it does not. Okay. That doesn't quite work. I was hoping it would. Okay, so that idea can be scratched, I think, unless it was just an execution issue with it being off-center. I don't know if that affected anything, whether if it's not off-center it would actually hit the P with the wake-up. But we need to play with the shell wake-up a little bit, I think, just in general, because it looks too interesting to not be part of a solution. I don't believe the shell wake up is going to chain into anything else, if not that. Let's just try this again, just to double check the positioning, just to make sure it's not just a positional problem there. That's okay, we'll just pop it here. And then turn block finish. It's a little off center again. Yeah, I don't think that's going to hit. It was a little off to the left. I just want to be absolutely certain that we know whether this will work or not. So let's have it jump out just a little further to the right. Yeah, it's not going to hit. But I wonder if there is something else that we can do with it. Let's see. Also notice that a shell on top of spring would give you something jumpable to get up there if necessary. Nope. It's okay, let's pop it and let's test the wake up through here. Drops the bomb. And then let's say we send this over. So notice that the bomb actually drops pretty cleanly down to the bottom of the rainbow here, which means that, yeah, it looks very much like if the spring is dead center, then the bomb will walk. But we needed a way to get it here. We need a way to get it here while having the shell trapped up top. Having the bomb activated at that point. Because if we hit the P-switch prematurely, then you have the problem with the walking. However, let's say we have the shell hit the bomb as the P-switch is close to expiry. And the bomb remains trapped. Well, that doesn't help because we... Yeah, because we need the bomb in order to have the second P-switch activation. The bomb has to wind up here. There's something else we're missing in terms of the shell sequence. Let's just think about it. So the platform comes down. That's unavoidable. The platform is there specifically to prevent any manipulation of the shell early on. Still think that we'll eventually consider the possibility of leaving this block alive just in case it's relevant. So at this point we drop this. Spawn a shell. Shell gets trapped on the left. So we need to figure out what hits the P and what hits the block. I think it absolutely has to be Buzzy on the block, although maybe that's not a totally sound assumption, depending. I mean, we can't lose access to the spring, though. We only have the one. And, you know, let's say, for example, we dispense of this. We will not be within camera range to get another one. And it is just flat out dead. Anyway, let's redo. I think first step has to be acquiring the Buzzy. There's nothing else that's particularly interactable early on. Unless there's a way for Mario to just get stuffed through the bumper. So, for example, say we move this up. Oh, it totally didn't work. And then if you do that first, then you've got the problem of not being able to get the other shell. I have my doubts that a shell jump would be part of the intended solution, but I'm trying to see what would happen if you tried to use the spring to squish Mario through the bumper, if that would work. But then you don't have a P-switch activation unless P-switch is already active by that point, which might be possible, but we would regardless need a way to get up there. So, however, let's say we do this. What if we have the shell wake up at the bottom? Oh. Invert it. Oh, I had to be very careful not to pick up the P-switch. Hang on. I was thinking that if you have a jump, then you can bounce off of it. For example, you leave it here. Oh, no, that's okay. If it's still down, then you can just try again. Let it wiggle. There we go. If it wiggles like this, then you have a way to come up here. Now, here's the issue. I'm going to try this first of all. If it works, then we hit the P-switch first before we do this, obviously. And possibly even load a second buzzy right side. Now, the issue, though, is that then we don't have a way to actually get through here. Okay, that works. That's really important because it means that we can follow the bomb after the P-switch activation. That solves a lot of problems, actually, all at once. The issue is, if we do it this way, I don't know if I have a good way to go back to retrieve that spring afterwards. Because we would have a bomb detonation on the right side. We would open up the right side column. I wonder if you can actually go off screen by enough at that point to despawn the spring and then move it back to its original location. That might actually be part of the sequence. But the thing is that we confirm that we actually are able to follow the bomb down and then carry it across. That means that we can get as far as opening up the gate on the right side. So, first though, this coin does have to go down then. Okay, now we do the flip sequence here. And then just move it up. Move this down. Flip it. Move it down again. Yeah, we'll probably be missing a step here somewhere. For example, just getting that coin on the right is something that we know we can do with a shell, but let's say we do this. And then we have all kinds of trouble getting it into this one tile slot. And then we follow this down. Oh, except too late. If we hit the P-switch, we need to go immediately, pretty much. And it might even be better to up throw into the P-switch so we're not stuck getting into that one slot. But Mario actually, if the P-switch is released, gets ahead of the bomb. If you get ahead of the bomb, then you can actually catch it and carry it across. The issue at that point is that I think what you actually do is you throw, instead of throwing bomb here, you spin jump on top of it to go back up. Then the bomb hits, and you have access to get the spring. So that will be a little more that we've figured out here. I think we're making progress. There'll be some other things to sort out afterwards. And we do have a sequence to grab the top coin, but we'll need to figure out a few other things. We'll probably have to retrieve another shell in order to do the up throw on the right, for instance. Okay. At this point, Well, first of all, let's take this, move it up. Yeah, the hop off of the waking shell was very critical here. In terms of it giving me that extra tile of jumping distance. Now we do up throw here and catch. Whoop. Up throw. Oh, okay, that doesn't actually hit. Then, anyway, we need to be really quick about this then. Or we don't have time, because... Yeah. Yeah, otherwise you just get trapped here. So you would have to be very quick about that, maybe. Unless there's another way to activate it that is less fussy. I think that has to be the correct sequence, it's just that we have a little bit of trouble getting through that P-switch and getting through the left side with a clean jump. Because if you go instantly, I think you can make it, timing-wise. Because Mario just needs to catch the bomb, right? And everything there is built in such a way that Mario has to come down and get ahead of the bomb, so we need it to walk down within the remaining seconds after activation. It may actually make sense. Well, no, you need an up throw to hit the question block for the bomb in the first place. But we'll see. I think that might actually just be an execution issue. I think it is doable. We might need to sort out a few things with the bomb timing, but I think the concept is probably quite sound. Oh, that's okay. I'll just patiently catch it like this without hitting the P-switch. Then we walk over it and bounce. Now, yeah, because here's the issue, is we have issues hitting the P-switch now. Because we need a perfect jump into that slot on the left. Now if we can get down here and have enough time on the bomb. I forgot to release it. However, that's not a problem because P-switch is released by the point you can just go through it right. However, you do need to go through the P-switch at that time in order to... Yeah, that's correct, except we forgot to get that coin at the beginning. You do get that coin at the beginning, then you're able to take the bomb and run through the center. And then you can do the spin jump interaction after that. In fact, we may even want to throw the bomb through here. And then follow it. It's going to be a little bit time sensitive, but I do see the sequence that I'm going for. And we confirmed that we are able to retrieve the bomb now. That's a significant landmark when it comes to what we know we can do in this level. So, let's up here first. Pop it before the wake up. Cycle it down. And yeah, the execution of the jump under the bumper will be everything. Now, hitting it too early is fine. We can redo it. Oh, just a little bit low. Here we go. And then... Point again. Nope, missed it. Missed it. But can I redo it? I actually can. Except I'm missing the P-switch now. So I can't. But... yeah. Too bad. Yeah, because the idea is that we would come through here. This jump, we need to practice it. I need to not crouch when it comes to getting over the one here. Yeah, we need to practice this jump for sure. Very silly little precision jump in the middle of a timed segment. Very unfortunate. Yeah, because If we can make this slot consistently, then we save ourselves all the timing issues we saw earlier. We just need to do it perfectly. This is exactly the kind of thing I don't know how to do. Like you jump stationary and then fall in. Hang on. Yeah, you're just kind of standing middle here. Stationary jump to the left. Fall to the left. Not very reliable. Yeah, we can do this consistently. Like stand on the middle of this second full leaf here and then fall in. Okay. If we can do that, then we'll be able to get a bomb quickly. If we can do this consistently. Stand on that leaf. Hang on. Fall in like this. Then we need to hit the block instead of missing it completely this time. So I like the solution so far. We need to confirm that we can detonate a bomb with time to spare. So we grab this first. Whoop, hang on. Then we load the buzzy. Okay. Then, oh, too far over. Yeah, so you have a very narrow window to actually capture the bomb. Like it has to be when it's at the bottom of the rainbow here, because otherwise it walks too far. And so that's going to be a little timing sensitive in its own right, because you need to still cart the bomb over before detonation. We've had lots of trouble with bomb timings in this puzzle sequence. We needed to not hit that. Hang on. Just in terms of executing things with the exact detonation timing that we need, that was something that was a major holdup in one of the last puzzles yesterday. Oh, need to load this again. And of course now we have the issue of trying to grab this. Hang on. There we go. Just keep it upside down. Get the wake up. Okay, now we need to do this bit perfectly. Perfectly. And I missed. Now, maybe I just need to lean right into that to make sure we hit. Or maybe I need to hold the bounce to make sure we get the maximum jump off of the spring when we get squeezed in there. Okay. Just come up here and grab it. Pop it. And cycle back up. And do it somewhat cleanly here. After a bit of practice. Okay, let's try to do this cleanly this time. No. No, couldn't hit it. I was able to do it earlier. I wonder why we can't anymore. I need to figure out a consistent input to bounce off the spring in such a way that we will hit the question block. Because I don't know why we're getting bounced off the bumper quite like that. I don't know how to do it consistently because I am trying to lean right. Does not seem to be working. Okay, let's just let this wake up first. Then we'll just flip it. Of course, you can do this bit with a shell jump too, but this is more reliable. Lost so much timing here. No. Okay, let's test out this input. Make sure. Yeah, you see, I can't hit for some reason. We were able to do it previously. And I don't know what's different this time in terms of why the bumper is making contact quite like that with the P blocks open. We've demonstrated that it can be done. We did it consistently the first few times. I just don't know what's different about the input now. Whoops. But if we can sort out that input, which unfortunately is a pretty lengthy sequence to get back to. And of course it doesn't help to do it without the P-switch. You do in fact need to have the P blocks open in order to practice hitting the question block successfully. Nope, we need to wake it up first from the flip. Eventually, of course, when we do this fully, we'll use the shell to grab the right side coin first. Oh, hang on. Whoops, no, let's do this again. You know what, speaking of the... well, that's alright, we can just grab another shell. Again, that coin is essentially free. There's no reason not to just take it when we're eventually going for the clear condition. Okay, let's jump this and flip it. Oh, nope. See, it takes so long just to get back to the interaction that we need to execute, which is successfully hitting the question block over the bumper. It takes a long time just to set it up again, practice it. Okay, load it and flip it. Okay, there we go. Now at this point, I'm going to do this precisely. Come on. No, I don't know why I can't hit it anymore. I don't know what was different. Maybe the fact that I'm facing right is actually what's throwing it off. Maybe I just need to do a straight jump with nothing directional going on. And there was some reason that I did it successfully the first few times and have not been able to do it successfully since. We need to potentially revert some changes to the input that I've been using. Because maybe if you're pushing right, then it pushes against the bumper in a way that bounces you too early. I'm not exactly sure when it comes to the bumper interaction. So yeah, it could be a bit of a lengthy execution problem here. Nope, that's okay. We'll reverse it again. Nope, too early. There we go. Nope, couldn't hit. Don't know why I can't hit. We had it earlier, I just don't know what's different about the input. Maybe I need to really hold into a full jump or something, but I really can't tell. Because it's clearly a jump height issue, perhaps. Yeah, it's so fussy to execute that whole sequence there, but including this first jump. No, I don't know why we can't hit it anymore. I can't tell what's different about the input. Because we were able to hit that previously even with the P-switch already having been activated. We did have one sequence where we successfully got the bomb. I don't know why it no longer works, though. just had to practice it and figure out some kind of consistent input that will work. Because I honestly can't place what was different that made it stop functioning. Nope, I can't do it. Well, that is really unfortunate because I've proven that it can be done, and you know, if I hadn't proven that it can be done, maybe it would just be in a situation where I'd give up on that input too early and consider something else. But the thing is, the fact that I have shown that that's entirely possible and not even something we needed to worry about early on makes me think that we need to fix that up for sure. So what is it that I'm doing wrong with the input? I need to find out. Nope. Okay, so I can bump it even once I am on top, but the thing is, that doesn't really give the bomb enough time to walk. So if we miss, we're actually still able to bump it. But it's better if I just hit it the first time before I get sent over. Maybe I just need to spam the jump button and hope something hits. Yeah, too much of a precision element here, I think. Although sometimes too much of a precision element in a puzzle tells me that I might not be doing the cleanest solution. That is possible. Okay, good. But do we have enough time for the bomb to come down? Well, not enough for this P-switch activation to give me that coin. So we missed that coin, unfortunately. But this is the further we've gotten in terms of being able to get through there. The issue right now is that because I didn't get the spin jump off of the bomb, I wasn't able to get back up to the spring. So you absolutely need to send the bomb over with a spin jump. Now let me just check on the Buzzy whether spin jump does in fact give me sufficient height. I know we can just count tiles, but I'd rather prove it cleanly. For example, if you're here, let's say we spin... Actually, even spin off the bomb I don't think necessarily would get you the height that you need. Retrieve the spring. So it might be a bit of a dud solution to begin with in that we don't have the spring available even after blowing this up. So it might not even be the correct sequence anyway. Do I actually need the spring to tuck myself over the bumper? I think I do, but we can try a few things. I think I do. But what if I used a shell here? And, well, spring pushes you through. I think a shell doesn't necessarily get me through even with, you know, place it and spin on it or something. And even so, you would have the issue of having to hit the P-switch first. But this is an interesting question. So we'll try it, because then we can save ourselves some interactions. Except the shell is dead, but due to the spin jump. So I have my doubts, even with a jump over a bomb, that I would be able to get up to the top position anyway. And regardless, we missed the middle segment here. However, well, a standard jump, let me just check this. Just do a little bit of height checking here. Yeah, standard jump is short by a tile. But you know that a flip is going to eventually get you over. And the question is, are we able to maybe cycle back here quickly enough that after the first flip on the shell, we're able to circle around and do a second flip on the same shell? Because that would actually solve some things. Apart from not being able to get the bomb there quickly enough. It seems like there's going to be a really quick and time-sensitive interaction, actually, where if you're able to cycle back to the same shell for 2 consecutive wake-ups, and actually, even if the Buzzy is just still alive in general, if you flip up there and you trap the Buzzy over here and keep it alive using blocks, then you don't spawn a second one on the left. What you do is keep this Buzzy alive. If the Buzzy is alive, then you can actually just use it regardless for, well, potentially something like a dangerous looking shell jump. But or some other interaction that would allow me to head upstairs. If it is a shell jump, that would be really unfortunate. I think that would be a bit untidy, but let's redo it. I think we have the right idea up to a point. It's just that the execution looks extremely fuzzy, and suspiciously so, to the point that I think there might be cleaner ideas, but okay, let's drop this, and then... Oh, nope, didn't want to kick it. Yeah, because catching the bomb and coming up here in time and going through that and detonating on the right, all of that is a pretty tricky sequence to actually pull off when hitting that question block up top is itself a little bit unreliable. And then we do need to retrieve the spring again afterwards, which is a potential issue. However, there's one thing that we should try, which is, without a spring, am I able to do something? Yeah, no, you can't. You do need a spring to push you, obviously, but worth checking. Okay, let's do the whole sequence here again. Again, very fussy to execute. To the point that maybe every time I should grab that right side coin just in case we need it, but, you know, just to minimize repetitions, but we'll see what happens. Let's do this quickly, and unfortunately... No, you see, I got ejected, and then there's got to be a cleaner way to do that. Because it seems to be a bit of a roll of the dice every time as to whether I'll actually have the precise input I need to hit the question block. And I was just seemingly very fortunate the first few times that we did in fact manage it. So we've blown up the right side wall once, out of all the attempts we've had so far, but after having blown up the right side wall, we did so without having completed the interaction for getting back up to the spring up top. If we can get back up to the spring up top after detonating the right side wall, I think we're pretty close to having the rest of the solution available from there. Let's wait this out first. I find it extremely doubtful that we have some kind of required shell jump in a puzzle level that goes with it. Oh. You see? Just does not cooperate. There's something I need to do to manipulate my input so we can hit that question block 100% of the time. I just have not found it yet. And of course, of the puzzles that we've played so far, there actually have been a fair share of execution traps, so it's not beyond these puzzles to be asking that kind of thing of you as a player, just to... See? No. Can't hit. Like, if you don't hit on the way up, then you just don't hit. And the fact that it's so unreliable is making me rethink it. But on the other hand, that's the best route that we've found so far. It's the most plausible route that was seen out of everything that we've been doing. And that in itself is suspicious. We do know that, of course, if you tuck the Buzzy in under the question block, that it is able to walk off, but if it walks off alongside the bomb, then we have no way to actually get the bomb. Unless we just have to change the timing of that P-switch. But yeah, I don't see a way to do it if it's not the sequence that we've mapped out already. Particularly, the flip interaction feels very elegant. It is strictly substituted by just a simple shell jump, of course, but assuming that you're not going to get the shell jump. Oh, whoops. The flip giving you that extra tile actually seems extremely satisfying as something that you should be doing. And... well, let's see what happens here. Reload this. Bring it over. And we'll bring it upstairs. Okay, wake it up. Then the thing is, roll the dice on this interaction. And this one. Okay, so hold dash, hold right, hold jump. So I was able to do it that time, I just did it too late. But we'll see if we can replicate it. If we can replicate it, then as long as we get the jump into that one tile slot to begin with, then we're in good shape. But that potentially is asking a lot in terms of the number of things that we need to do cleanly in this sequence. So. Wait for it. Nope. The thing is, if you don't get this jump, then all is lost. And then if you... yeah, if you miss everything, then you miss everything. And if you have all the accidental picking up that's going on the spring, for instance. Yeah, it's fussy to the point that I don't know if it's actually the way, but it is also the best solution that we've found. And that in itself makes me want to continue pursuing it. Kind of wish we could just get credit sometimes for solving these puzzle levels on paper without actually having to press the buttons, but let's see. See? Just absolute nonsense there. You know, I should actually go for that coin first. While waiting for the bomb to come down, I'll just grab that coin manually, and then we just run the bomb through the bottom instead. I think that makes more sense. Because we have time while waiting for the bomb, and then we drop down from this side, and then to be able to catch it a bit more cleanly. We got pretty far that time. We just need to be able to send the bomb over here, and if the shell has woken up already, then that means we need a shell jump in order to continue to get the spring, which, again, is another major execution point of failure that looks way too suspicious. That if you do everything cleanly, then maybe you're able to, you know, carry the bomb through here and then get a shell wake up timing here while tossing the bomb here. But everything about this is just a little bit too tricky to execute. Oh, let's load it. And load this one. You know what? Let's do this bit first. As I've been saying, just to get it out of the way. At some point, we'll need to figure out when we are going for the remaining coins up top. Maybe even initially... Yeah, because the top right one's the only one that we're kind of missing in sequence right now. Maybe if we dash all the way from there, we can find a way to get into the one tile slot a bit more cleanly, but the fact that we'd have to jump into that one tile slot to begin with is really unfortunate. That would be a timed interaction. But we'll have a second P-switch after the top right is bombed, so we should continue to pursue this path just to see what else we're missing in the sequence. For example, maybe we can get a good dash. Yeah, if we can get a good dash jump like this, then maybe that's the way, because then if we can do it consistently at dashing speed and just jump cleanly, which I absolutely don't trust myself to do, then we'd be able to get up here. Notice that you don't initially hit when you're on a cloud. You do need to basically jump again to make sure you hit the question block. That might be part of the issue there. We don't hit on the initial run up the spring. We do in fact need to tap jump again. Let's try this again. And run it over this way. Might have to wind up doing a shell jump with this one anyway. Said and done. Oop. Oh, forgot to get that coin on the right anyway, so... Okay, good. That's... Well... Wasn't the cleanest, but that's an improvement in some ways. This time, let's be serious about it and let's grab the coin on the right side with the shell first. Just to get it out of the way. It doesn't seem to affect anything else in the sequence whatsoever. I might be wrong, but I don't think it does. I think that coin is essentially free. And then after that, coins are pretty much accounted for. Apart from... Well, yeah, we're at 2 out of 5. We see 3 blocks for the other 3. As long as we can get that bomb down and return to the spring, that's the essential thing. Then we have this sorted. But the execution is untidy enough that I really do have my suspicions that this was the intended route. I just don't see the alternative. Oh, no, hang on. I have to do it again. Okay. And of course, no, this is totally blown now. Let's figure out where we run. Do this. Run, like right in the middle here? Hang on. Use an exact moment. Yeah, let's just practice this a little bit. This one tile gap is absolutely terrible. Like, would it really have killed you to, you know, do a little diagonal slope here, right above here? We can actually slide into that properly. I mean, it could just be that this isn't the intended solution, which is always a possibility at the back of my mind when the execution is a little bit ugly, but... Oh yeah, let's get the coin first. Just to not deal with it. Gonna pop that shell again, obviously, but let's just grab another one. Let's see. Up we go, and then bounce. And then we have to get into that single tile slot cleanly. Always a tall order. First, okay, got that. Now the thing is, can we get over to the bomb quickly enough? Oh, no, because I was just short. If we had been able to run the bomb over, jump on the Buzzy without killing it, then we send it over to the wall, then we would almost certainly have to shell jump over the Buzzy to get back to the spring. That's the issue with executing it that way currently, is that it does actually require shell jump with the method that I'm using, which might not be correct, but... And past that point, if we have a spring and... Well, if we have a spring available, we can grab as many Buzzies as we want. And if we have a spring and a Buzzy available, then we should actually be able to get through the top right. Even after a second P-switch activation. The thing about the sequence that I'm using right now is actually it does not use the second P-switch activation at all. I think. Like, at no point is it really relevant. That's the one thing that's suspicious about it, is that the P-switch activation there doesn't matter. It might constrain some other things that I'm doing here, but it looks like I'm doing a sequence where it just does not use it, and it does not matter at all that it happens unless it's supposed to lock me out of some other interaction that I'm not supposed to do out of sequence. So that's one sign that I'm not doing this as intended. Because maybe you're supposed to do things gently, such that... Well, I mean, the thing is, you can't get the second P-switch until you have had the bomb detonate, though, so... You know that's going to be part of it. But currently I have a route that looks like it works, at least in theory. Need to keep that Buzzy alive, though. Oh, come on. This thing here. Okay, now let's get over here. Would be an interesting idea for a bit of a hand and brain collaboration of sorts, where you get a precision player to actually do the Mario playing while the puzzle player solves the puzzle. So someone can actually work out what to do. The other person can actually press the buttons, because, you know, these two skill sets are not necessarily always in alignment. Okay, that will work. Get back out this way. No, too late, too late, too late. I just slipped off this corner a moment too late to do this. And of course, you want more time for the Buzzy to remain alive before walking over. Should figure out whether the Buzzy wakes up and goes left or right. I think it goes towards Mario always. And so we actually want to do the jump off the Buzzy as far to the right as possible by that logic. And get to the P-switch as soon as possible. So we're hitting the clear condition at this point. We're doing it successfully. But we still have two pieces of the puzzle, which is blow up the wall, retrieve the spring. And we've gotten as far as blowing up the wall. But we need a Buzzy to remain alive in this corner if we are to also retrieve the spring afterwards. Okay, let's do this. Dock it as far to the right as possible. Do this as quickly as possible. No, missed. And it's just a waste of an attempt every single time that you miss that block. And so... I mean, this is a solution we're running with, but whether it's intended or not, having adopted this as our choice, I do seem to have signed myself up here for a lot of time-wasting execution traps, which is unfortunate. Some parts of this feel really elegant, some parts don't, when it comes to the pathway that we're taking. The shell flip here, very elegant, very interesting. But if we can't get that timing back on it on the second pass and can't get up except for a shell jump, because a spin jump doesn't look like it's going to do it. Oh, come on. Oh yeah, we don't have to flip yet. Hang on. Let's get another one. And that seems like the execution is going to be just a little bit too demanding to be comfortable. I do see a very viable path at this point, which is need to set it up properly and weave through it properly. Okay, grab all this stuff. Come on. No. Yeah, you pretty much just have to redo this until you hit the block cleanly, and you have to do the jump into the slot cleanly, then you have to hit the block cleanly, and then capture the bomb in this little 2-tile margin that we have here. It is a little bit rough all around. Maybe, here's what I'm thinking. We don't know what detonates the bomb on that side yet. Maybe it's not a crush, maybe it's a Potoboo. If it is a Potoboo, then we actually have time to walk back after the ignition to grab this top coin. Or this first coin that's in the slot towards one-way panel. That is if and only if the question block on the top right holds a Potoboo rather than something that gives you a crush. I think it will be a Potoboo, actually, just looking at it. But we're not 100% on that. Also, the Wiggler underneath. Well, it blocks directly jumping there, but... yeah, I think an up throw through it, even with an enemy like a Buzzy, should still be viable. I'm assuming it's a Buzzy throw, not a spring throw. But if it is, well, we'll see. Oh, whoops. Go over here, grab it. Oh, no. Start over. Yeah, so I know of the exact sequence of steps that I want to do at the moment, but I'm not far enough yet to know if there are going to be any other issues, and the fact that my current method is dependent on a very late shell jump in this level does worry me a little bit. Maybe we should have been putting our efforts towards finding a cleaner and easier to execute method instead, but we go with what we know. There we go. Alright, let's see about the bumper. After we get there. After we get there. There we go. But this time, yeah, you see, this time the lag time after the P-switch was the problem, even though we executed the bomb activation just fine. You need both steps to be perfect. Okay, let's get up here, top coin first. I wonder why the first coin on the left is such a freebie. That also is suspicious. I feel like the actual intended solution probably makes use of retaining it as a coin for a little bit longer. It just looks too odd having it stick out like that by itself as something that is a free interaction that doesn't interact with anything else, apart from, you know, potentially trapping you if you forget to get it. Nope. Let's do it again. Nope. And we need to be as quick as possible about P-switch into the bumper question block. There we go. This is the cleanest we've ever done it. Let's get ready to capture this guy. Okay, good. Good. Okay, all according to plan so far. Let's pop that shell. Not die to it. Is it going to kill the shell? It needs to kill the shell, otherwise... Oh! Oh, I see. That's the issue. Is that... you get trapped here with a shell wake up. Because it does not die to the bomb. That's the issue. I was wondering if that would be the case. There was one question that was on my mind, which is that if the bomb is an instant detonation, then is the shell actually within range that it can be taken out? Because if that's the case, we don't want to trap ourselves in a spring here. We don't have to. That's the thing. That we could have just done a jump on the right side. No, we still can't, because if we up throw the buzzy shell first, then no matter what, it's going to block you due to the P-switch. That's why you have the second P-switch as a trap. So the way that we do it instead is we have a flipped buzzy. But then where are you going to get a flipped buzzy at this point in the level? Because unless you have a buzzy that stays flipped, for example, by skipping over the well, I don't know how we can realistically skip over the coin that is under the first P-switch on the left. I think you actually would have to do a single column shell jump with a buzzy. You would need to grab a buzzy shell and have it available, and then you would need to up throw the spring. Then you don't get trapped. I don't see another way currently, unless we have another way to flip a buzzy. And even so, if you flip a buzzy, the column is designed in such a way that you can't really get a clean jump on top of it while it's waking up. So it has to be a spring throw up to that location. Yeah, that is what I was afraid of. I needed to see that in action to confirm it. It's too bad because we executed absolutely everything else so cleanly, including some of the parts that were technically a bit more difficult. Best attempt yet. We just needed to see the final trap. And it is the trap that I suspected it would be, but we needed to check. But the way is up throw to spring, then single column shell jump. I mean, if this level is asking me for a shell jump anyway, already, then what's the second one between friends? There probably is a cleaner sequence to do it. For example, if you're able to retain this block, which I don't think I'll be able to do, then you can use that as another flip point. I don't know if there would be something similar that you can do with using a flip on the coin that we talked about earlier on the left side. Or just cycling quickly enough that instead of using a cell jump, you just kind of jump back onto a flipping buzzy every time as you card the bomb over. I don't think I can do it cleanly enough to execute anything like that, though. And so it looks like up throw to spring followed by single column shell jump. I just don't see another way. Well, that was a lot that we had to execute cleanly that time and do perfectly, and not every attempt will be like that. And so it might take some time to get back to the position that we were in to even try that. But we're close. We're really just one step off, and it might be an execution step. Unavoidably so. Okay. And yeah, you see, here's... well, that's a total bust on both accounts. Really can't take too long with that. Otherwise you had to deal with the shell walking off as well. Okay. When we get back to the position we were in earlier, we'll take it patiently, just as a bit of a sanity check when it comes to what we can do with the final throw. Knock it to the right over here, and then we'll jump it. As cleanly and quickly if we can. Oh, that was not clean. Just could not get over the slot. Just... This may be on us, not on the puzzle, if it's not really the intended sequence, but... Precision checks are the absolute worst thing about a puzzle solution when you just have to negotiate the execution trap again and again. I think, you know, in some ways that mentality of being a puzzle player versus a precision player in terms of the skill set is about as opposite as it comes in Mario Maker. You certainly see no shortage of precision streamers who just will not do puzzles, for instance. And by precision standards, the kind of inaccuracy that we're seeing here with execution is absolutely trivial. It's not really even that tight necessarily, but we just don't know what the intended input should be to do it cleanly. And oh, no, we took too long with this. We want the shell to remain alive. Whoops. So even though we had access to the P-switch at that point with this ring, we need the shell to be... Well, we need to hit the P-switch sooner and get the rest of the interaction down sooner so we have access to the shell again when we loop back around. It's a very essential component of this. That's an approach. I'll wake up. Do this as well as we can. Come on. Okay, this might be viable. Except, of course... No, lost the coin interaction. I needed to get up to the coin first. You have to get up to the coin first. Otherwise, you just can't get the bomb out in time if I'm flubbing the jumps early as much as I'm doing. Might be possible to just cart the bomb straight through here if you do everything up top on the first try. Absolutely everything on the first try. There we go. Don't get trapped. And we'll do this as comfortably as we can. No need to risk a shell jump here when we already have 2 incoming later. Okay, now just a bit slow on the uptake here, but we'll totally blow it. Again and again. Yeah, too bad we ruined that one totally clean attempt by just picking the wrong possibility on the final column. Thinking that we could get away with it. But at the time, of course, I didn't know what the situation was with the question block in terms of whether that would be an instant crush or Potaboo or something else, so perhaps we could be slightly forgiven for a bit of guesswork there and trying it for the first time. No. I don't know how to fix that input reliably. We just either get it or we don't, and I have no idea how to adjust it in such a way that it forces the question block to actually trigger. Yeah, there's a roll of a dice on some of this stuff every time, which is very unfortunate. Okay, let's try this again. I believe we got to jump into that slot cleanly that time. Okay, let's do this again. Yeah, for timing purposes, you really have to do everything in that sequence on the first try. Or it just doesn't line up very cleanly. You run into all sorts of problems. Nope. Wonder how long it will take us between that attempt that was successful up till the last step and the next time we get back into that state of having the right side column open and everything obtained. Just how many execution mistakes are we in store for between now and then? Could be an hour's worth if you ask me, but it's just how it goes sometimes. That bounced like that, actually. I wonder if there's a way to use that in a productive manner. Maybe not, but... maybe we're having some tunnel vision for some of this and there is some viable path that switches around some of the item placements a bit as we try to chase that bomb, but currently, again, I just don't see a solid alternative to the current strategy. Whoops. Okay. Set this up. Again, I feel like if we cycle back here cleanly enough, we can actually get it on the next flip as well. Depending on how quickly you can do all this stuff, as you can see, not quickly at all. And yeah, I was trying to practice that last interaction under the bumper because we just cannot get that consistently either. Still haven't been able to do it very well. Outside of a few solid attempts where I really don't understand what I did differently to make those successful, so some nuance in how you hold the buttons or repress to jump. I just don't have a systematic understanding of it just yet. It is a long sequence to get back to some of the execution traps. No. Okay, let's do it again. And then we'll flip over this one. So yeah, if you know that you can land a shell jump 100% of the time, the faster way to do this is... Actually, no. We want to retain the shell. So we wouldn't want to shell jump this part anyway. We have to do the flip because we're trying to retain the shell for the second cycle. So after we get the bomb here, we're able to come back and grab another shell. Otherwise, shells just continue to fall on the left side where you don't have a clean way to retrieve them. Cannot believe how difficult it is to just do those two steps there. Get in a slot, spawn the bomb. It is so fuzzy to actually input any of that. Whoops. Okay, now let's do this. And spawn another one. We'll take this patiently. We can, of course, just up throw and follow it up, but I'd rather do it this way at this point. Just to minimize headaches. Okay, land this first jump. Land this second jump. Missed the bomb. And the thing is, there's no way to practice that bomb until you get into that corner with spring plus E-switch. And so there's no quick way that I can actually just try to practice that input right now. And unless you just go into the editor and run it 100 times or something, but... yeah, it's always unfortunate when it's just a pure input issue. Pure execution issue to something that you otherwise completely solved. But, or so it seems. Because we still have that single column shell jump to deal with afterwards, and we lose the shell on that try, we actually don't really get one back because the spring has been thrown already at that point. And so we'd only get one shot at it before having to redo the entire puzzle. If we are going up throw on the spring followed by single column shell jump. Which I really do not trust myself to execute cleanly. That was already blown due to the P-switch timing, but it was important to try the jump up through the bumper anyway, just to see if I can figure out what's wrong with the input. And why we're missing it so often. Realistically, we just had one good attempt so far that got me one step away. There probably is some interaction involving cycling a moving shell back and forth over a spring that we're not seeing in the central trap area here. That would also require some precise positioning. We'll miss everything here. Cannot get it. We've gotten it many times in the past, but more often than not, that's been missing. And it's always unfortunate when there's a critical step that is mechanically possible but unreliable. Because the actual puzzle structure of the spawn positions and the shell flip and everything, that's reasonably satisfying. But the little execution traps here and there are really just in the way of what the puzzle is good at doing. Nope. Have to do this again. Okay, and then we took too long on this. There we go. That's solid for once. Let's cross over, grab the coin, come back down, grab the bomb. There we go, solid. Shell jump. No, lost it. Lost it, now we can't finish it. You absolutely have to land a shell jump, and yeah, because the only other possibility I can see is to find some way to get that shell, you know, jump it early enough before it starts walking. I don't think we can do that. We just spend too much time cycling around, because if you're able to get back to it very cleanly and jump on it before it starts hopping, then you have another wake up that you can do from keeping it in an upside down position. But I don't see another way to get it into an upside down position past that point once the P-switch has expired. And so other than using a shell jump in that step, I don't know what we do. The thing that we're doing here that seems to complicate quite a few things is that I'm sending Mario through the bumper. I don't know if there is a solution that doesn't involve sending Mario through the bumper, like for example, getting a bomb to walk over here unignited by bouncing on a spring first. That was the first thing that we had considered early on. But we were kind of missing a step there as well when it came to investigating that. Also, I forgot to get the coin. Let's just get the coin first. Flip another shell. Because I feel like if we had discovered whatever missing step it was to get a bomb to fall here and walk to the right while Mario hangs out on the right side, if we sorted out whichever step was missing in that sequence, that would clearly be much, much easier to execute than what we're doing here. But as far as the puzzle solution sequence goes, we saw this one first, and so we've been stuck with trying to make it stick ever since. When it comes to just being able to play through it. But if we were to rethink, I think that's how we would rethink. We would rethink about whether there's any value in going back to the idea of walking a bomb over slowly. Because a lot of this is just so inconvenient. It's so unbelievably inconvenient. On the other hand, we've also had puzzles in this Sukan so far, over the course of the Super World, that have also had steps that were extremely inconvenient, usually involving bomb detonation timings. And so it's hard to rule this out as the intended solution. But I'm taking a moment here to just look at this and see, okay, was there an alternative that involved using the shell to hit the block and then walking a bomb? Maybe if you have a way to get a shell and a spring out to the top right, then you can use a shell to hit the question block, but then a spring to go through the bumper and then follow it from there, and then you can kick the shell away. I don't know. I feel like you'd probably kill a bomb if you did that. And that still doesn't solve the question of, you know, getting the spring down here in this position, so... I think the way we have it currently is closer to the solution in that we're actually able to get over to the last column in the final step. I just find that it's very suspicious that this method requires 2 shell jumps. That tells me I'm missing something. But that I'm not particularly motivated to find what it is I'm missing, because we currently do have a viable route. And sometimes a viable route, depending on whether we actually hit that block over the bumper. Which has been extremely unreliable. Okay. No. Like, it's just absolute garbage, that block. And we even got to jump there cleanly that time, but... I didn't even notice on the first few passes where we made it there that that block would be such a problem, because we hit it consistently the first few times and then I just haven't been able to do it consistently since. And I don't know what went wrong. And it's something that is just so difficult to practice as well, because it takes so long to get back there and you can only try it once, really. No, this will take too long, but we'll try to block anyway. No, we'll just never make it up that slot, so... It's been a significant chunk of time since the good attempt. At this point. But we'll see what we can do to get back to it. No, wrong. What am I doing carrying the shell up here? I'm supposed to be carrying the spring before I hit that P-switch. I just got some wires crossed there and missed an entire big step. I wonder, given the structure of this, whether you're supposed to just at some point have a shell roll back and forth up here. You know, you hit a P-switch and then you just have the shell bounce back and forth and collect things, and then eventually bounce back to where you need it. But there are a lot of possibilities that are suggested by this level that we're not pursuing because we have our incredibly fussy route instead. That at least is a known quantity. At least I've proven that it does in fact reach the final jump, which we have an inelegant solution for next time we get back there. It takes so long to get back there. No, then yeah, just let go of this object poorly. Well, at least we got the bomb that time, but we completely flubbed the actual entry into that point. Because both of those steps need to be perfect. The entry into that one tile slot under the bumper and the entry to the left of the bumper. Both of them have to be perfect or the timing is completely unviable, so we'll see what we can do with that. Okay, back to the flip. When we can load up the shell to do it. Let's let it wake up. Hit as quickly as we can. Jump as quickly as we can. And then it's not, okay, well it hits, but it takes too long. And we made too many mistakes there, and so we're able to get the bomb down in time. The distance, or rather the time between activating the P-switch and spawning the bomb has to be at an absolute minimum. Otherwise, the trouble is abundant. And the fact that we can get more shells like this is something I don't really use in the latter half, as in once we blow up the right side wall. I wonder if that can be reworked back into the solution somehow, but we haven't had the opportunity to really even think about that given just all the execution traps in the first part, at least with the method that we've been trying. I'm most reluctant to blame the puzzle outright when I might just be doing things in a very convoluted way that misses the block every time. Yeah, I mean, if I could see a cleaner solution, I'd use it. I just don't see one. And we know this works. That's sometimes the peril, that you see something that looks like a dubious solution when it comes to the execution requirement, but then you've proven that it can be done up to a point, and at that point, the natural course is to pursue the idea, even if it does lead to a little bit of tunnel vision for what we've discovered so far. And then, yeah, flip it. Nope. Try it again. A little bit late. Nope, too early. Feels like we figured out the sequence ages ago. And everything since has just been trying to get the attempt in where we can hit all of the tight margins needed. Okay, now this. No. And the thing is, it ejects you out the one-way panel. And if whatever button press is necessary there isn't exact, you just miss completely. And I just don't understand how to fix that jump. There's clearly a reliable way to do it if you know what buttons to press, but there's no way to actually narrow down which buttons to press if you don't come in already experienced in executing that kind of thing. And so it's just a total mess up there. Okay, let's try this again. It's gonna wake up too soon. Even if we do everything else right. Shell's gonna walk off too soon. Nope, missed it. Missed the ledge. Missed the ledge. And so that was correct, except I needed to drop off this ledge and onto the bomb, and I accidentally backed out too soon and got stuck on top of the ledge, and then that blew the attempt from there. For once, everything up to that point was actually fine, and that we actually got the bomb to walk. But just a sheer number of control issues that are introduced with this solution path. Has been right at the limit of what is reasonable. Okay, now let's jump on top of this thing. No, let's just wait it out. Try it again. So we give it as much distance as we can to walk. And then this thing is going to get blown anyway, and, you know, there's no easy way to respawn other than just starting it up again. The problem with this is that the solution that we have, and again, this may be on me. This may just be because I picked a solution path that is suboptimal when it comes to the execution requirement. But regardless, assuming that this is the actual solution that was seen, because we have proven that it does work all the way up to the last step. Assuming that this is correct, the execution traps are too late in the sequence. So you need to get so much done before you get tested against whether you can get in under the bumper and whether you can get that block next to the bumper. It just takes so many steps to get back there, to roll the dice and doing it. And yeah, it's just way too deep in the sequence to be a reasonable zone for mistakes. As people who watch this channel regularly know, I pretty much never complain about long sequences and sparse or no checkpointing, but it really depends on the nature of the obstacles themselves, right? Like in this case, it's just... I mean, you know, that comes with the territory of just not playing much high precision stuff. Obviously, for things that have a really tight execution requirement, naturally one would want to avoid repeating things if those interactions are really unreliable, and if you are just mainly tested on consistent button pressing. Because generally I am perfectly fine with long, complicated sequences of interactions if the margin of error is reasonable, and if the actual button pressing is comfortable and has a little bit of room for error, and at least has an easy reset to continue from where you were. But when it's jumping through that one row, hitting that one question block, that's really just been one problem after another. In the exact same spots every time. This one. And this one, which, again, even, you know, trying it out here, it just doesn't go. And the thing is, the second P-switch is constrained behind the first bomb. You're not going to activate the second P-switch until the first bomb blows up the wall. That was a pretty strict constraint to the sequence that we noticed pretty much right away when booting up this puzzle, what, 2 hours ago? And so as the bomb has to walk, and it has to walk with a comfortable timing. One of the first things that we had tried early on, when we didn't quite know how the bomb activation would go, was tap the bomb, follow it up with a P-switch once it has walked comfortably to the left. Maybe that's part of the real sequence that we're not seeing. But if we're doing the sequence where Mario follows up to the question mark and hits it to activate the bomb personally, then the P-switch obviously has to come first, because otherwise you just have no mechanism for slapping it. And so if we are to avoid that kind of spatial or timing check, we would really need to rethink the entire solution from scratch in terms of how the bomb spawn is going to happen. Because the way that I'm doing it currently, spawning a bomb has to happen after the P-switch. Oh no, it's the flip. No. it's so unreliable. Sometimes you just don't even make it through the bumper at all without many, many bounces. Sometimes you get ejected past a one-way panel. Sometimes you might actually hit the bomb. But there are so many permutations of that, and there doesn't seem to be a good way of discovering what the button press should be to avoid all of the nonsense. Not to mention that, you know, just to get past that sequence, that's not even at the 2 shell jumps yet. That we're not done at that point. Anyway, let's wait for it to wake up. Hit immediately. Then miss this almost every time. You see? Can't get it. Can't get it. And I don't even have the timing to tap it from the left side if we miss. I don't know. It seems too unintuitive. I feel like we've been pursuing a viable but suboptimal solution for far too long. And we're so deep in that it doesn't make sense to rethink at this point either, because I cannot see what the alternative is at the moment. Yeah, this would be one where after I solve it, I might want to look up whether there's any footage of somebody else's approach just comparatively. Because I feel like I'm definitely doing it the hard way. Nope. Missed it. There's one slot here. Good. No. A clean jump in there for once, and we just completely missed. I kind of think sometimes that puzzles would, in some ways, be even more fun with just tool-assisted inputs. You know, you just solve the thing and you just get the task bot to do the rest. Come on. And then, look at this. And then it takes forever to do that. Now, we had to kind of point left a little bit there. That was what escaped the trap. Maybe there's something to that, you know, there's this reluctance to point left because of the possibility that you'll just be sent straight out to P-switches, but maybe that's part of the trick. As soon as I pointed left, I got out of bounds, and we did in fact hit the block. But it takes so long to get back there that it's difficult to systematically experiment and find a method. Anyway, back up we go. Get the flip again. And jump it. See, even if I'm missing that first entry point there, I'm trying to get some kind of practice down on hitting the block. And that has usually not paid off. Yeah, we may have committed to a really terrible solution here. Maybe by this point we would have just figured out another way instead, but let's keep going. Nope, let's try it again. Good. Cleanest in a while. Through here, out, and then missed the ledge again. Just too late on that. There's so many inconveniences in this level. So many things that create execution timing issues. Where, you know, I grab the coin, then I have to dash back, and I have to fall back down and catch the bomb here. But you have to do everything very cleanly to get to that point, and chase down that bomb before it slips under the corner. I mean, I wonder what is actually prevented by having everything here just be a single row over. I guess, well, I mean, the thing that it does is it creates time pressure on being able to step on the bomb down there. That's precisely the trap that we're running into, but I really wonder if that's necessary. Or if it breaks too much to give the player a little more headroom to work with. Or even just an extra column to work with. Missed. And, of course, it just wastes another attempt every time that happens. Because you can't get the P-switch back, so... Okay, let's see here. Oh yeah, we haven't taken the coin on the right side yet. Let's just do that first. Even though we have to do another flip. Maybe not. We'll just... Oh, yeah, we have to do another flip. Nick Angel, thank you for wishing me a happy affiliate anniversary. I actually lost track of when that was, but I guess Twitch is now serve to remind everybody. Okay, now let's get back over here. And then do the flip. And the jump. And then to the left, to the left. Got the bomb at least. Time's gonna be a bit tight this time. I don't think the bomb will make it. No, it won't. Well, we can practice a shell jump at least. Yeah, so technically we should have, at this point, detonated the right side with bomb. Then, if we can get the shell jump down this consistently, without losing the shell completely, which is the main risk there, other than just... I mean, you have to get it consistently. If you miss too high, it sails away. If you miss too low, you just get hit. But if we can get everything up to the bomb detonation, plus the shell jump, plus the single column shell jump at the end, that's the puzzle, and that's the end. Everything has been mapped out. And it's just been the past hour of trying to consistently hit that block. Okay. Grab it again. Okay. Then we'll flip this the way we did before. The flip is still satisfying, to the extent that it may or may not be an intended part of the sequence. It's probably the most satisfying thing here, solution-wise. Okay. Yeah, if you bounce like that, then you point left and get out. Good. No! I was trying to jump over it so we could fire the bomb. We need to do a sooner throw. Everything was fine up to that point. Everything was perfect, but... I backed into the bomb by mistake. That was a choke. Everything else went well that time. And... yeah, just had to hesitate in the exact wrong spot to accidentally lose the shell and the bomb. Oh, that was unexpected. But would save time if we're going for speed, which we're not. Okay, that walks. Send it up here. And the thing is, we haven't had a chance to really practice this timing on single column shell jump as well. That's just another big risk that's coming our way that we haven't really had a crack at yet. So we could be losing at this for quite some time while we straighten out all of the different execution traps that exist here. Like, even just hitting this stuff quickly enough. Now, we would save time if on the second piece, which we grab this coin that's above in this column here, but I don't see a good way to do it because we need something to jump off that would get us up there, and then we would need to use it again on the right, and so we can't just shell jump it because we lose the shell from that. We can't get another one if we've done an up throw with a spring, and so I think the current sequence has to be correct when it comes to when we collect the coins for the condition. Nope. Too many ways to choke on this one. Okay, now let's get the first coin before we forget. Oh, that was way too close. Given that exact placement there. Okay, do this quickly if we can. Nope, got ejected. I don't know how to avoid it. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Might be something wrong I'm doing directionally by trying to press into it. But if we don't press into it, I think we just get ejected out when we panel, so... Holding right, rather, into the bumper. Okay, that jumps. And that bumps. We'll be fortunate to even have time for 2 puzzles today, depending on how long this first one takes when it comes to the execution barrier. We've been at this for quite some time after already mentally having solved it. Nope, missed it. I don't know how to avoid missing it. Unless we have some other way to do a delayed P-switch interaction, but I just don't see it yet. Because we tried a couple of different things with the shell and the throws and so on, but I don't see a particularly good way that the P-switch would actually be hit by an object that could activate it. And yeah, let's redo this. Does mashing the jump button on bumper work? Not always. I have been doing it on some attempts. I think you actually kind of need to in order to reach, but the input does have some problems. No, it doesn't. That was a mash right there, and we got ejected too soon, as you can see. It's dependent on a whole bunch of different factors, I think. And I just can't sort out what they would be. It's the kind of thing that makes me wonder if this is actually correct, because it's almost like the P-switches there are placed specifically to create the likelihood that you do get ejected. Unless you have a way to get into position under bumper and then remotely activate a P-switch, which I do not see. I do feel like the whole middle segment is suspicious. The fact that I'm kind of dipping in there, grabbing a coin, and backing out of it. It doesn't quite feel right when it seems heavily implied that either the Buzzy or the bomb or both are supposed to walk through the center. I feel like that's naturally kind of implied by the structure of the level, and the fact that I'm not doing it is one of several red flags that we might have been pursuing something very suboptimal, so we'll see. There we go, the best one in a while. Back out. Okay, perfect. Except, shell jump, nope, missed it. And now we have to restart. Because unless you catch a shell and wake up or something, you don't get enough height, even with a spin jump. And a spin jump is not a good idea because you would kill the shell permanently and you don't get another one. So a shell jump is the only way I can see to do that. And it means that if you miss it, that is a start over. So yeah, once again, it's on me that we're trying to solution, but the execution fussiness of this solution path has been absolutely dreadful. And Mario, I feel like I'm not doing the intended solution, that's the thing, but I don't see a better way. Because there are a few red flags that make it seem as though I'm not pursuing the best course when it comes to having something easy to play. But the thing is, I see the route all the way to the ending with what I'm doing now, and I have gotten within one jump of the ending. Which is why we keep trying this, even though it's kind of terrible to play. Because I see the route, right? Like, I see how this works. It's just that I may have committed myself to a really rather bad solution because, you know, it's... The shell jump isn't even a problem. Like, this block is worse than a shell jump. I have hit the shell jump more often than I have hit that block. 06i, you found a way to get the block consistently? I absolutely don't mind you spoiling that, actually, because it's not a puzzle thing at this point. It's a guess the input thing until I can nail it. So I absolutely do not mind a backseat suggestion on that thing specifically, because there's nothing intellectual about it, right? Particularly with how long it takes to get back there and practice it. Jump into it crouched and after bouncing hold left. So you uncrouch, don't need to press jump. Yeah, maybe that's the thing that... So when I was getting the repeated bounce where you just kind of get trapped under here and you bounce, 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 and then before you get up to the left side of the bumper and over the cloud. When I was doing that, escaping that and hitting the block seemed to be something that came from tapping left. So if I'm kind of facing left to begin with, then maybe you don't get that kind of resistance from the bumper that pushes you. I'm not sure. It feels very counterintuitive because the natural tendency there is to try to press right to resist the bumper, right? But that might have actually made things worse, going by what you're telling me there. So, yeah, let me read that carefully before we do the whole P-switch activation, and then we'll... Or even pause in that segment when we get there, so I can think about this properly. Okay, let's do this. See if we can get that jump. Pause. Jump into it crouched after bouncing hold left. To uncrouch, okay. Crouch into the spring and then hold left. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Except I missed the coin this time. Okay, okay. I am honestly, at this point, looking forward to just, you know, crashing against the shell jump rather than crashing against this block here, because that was so miserable. And I was starting to narrow down that I needed to face left at some point instead of pinching towards the right, but I just could not work out the sequence without just staying there and being able to practice it repeatedly. Anyway, full credit to 06i for testing that out and rescuing the stream. This was worse than that slope thing from last time. The slope that I just spent 2 hours staring at. This was worse. Might not have taken quite as long, but it definitely felt worse. In terms of what a holdup it was on the whole puzzle. But yeah, if we can get that down consistently, then that's going to save tons of time. Okay. Assuming we can get in that slot. Oh, timing was wrong there. That didn't quite work out that time, but I think it was something to do with the timing in terms of when we went from crouch to left. So we're not out of the woods yet, but we'll see. Okay. No. Knock it. And get back up on top. Okay. We really need a Paper Mario Maker. And I don't just mean Mario Maker with a Paper Mario theme. I mean a Mario Maker that allows you to just clear the levels by solving them on paper. So you're saying I get ejected like that when I hold left too early? Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Oh, let's talk this further left like that. Okay. Let's do this. I don't even know if I'll have time for a second puzzle today, to be honest. But we'll see what happens. Nope. It's okay, just early enough to get to retry without redoing the whole flip. And then, yeah, do this quickly so we don't lose access to the shell. Exit going left. Exit here. Missed a bomb. Yeah, the thing is, when a bomb is crossing down, I don't want to fall to the left when a bomb could land on my head, but we actually should probably be crossing to the left to have a more comfortable jump towards the bomb, so I don't need to duck around this edge here and miss. And Mang, welcome. You see, we have Mang here, and Mang's so familiar with jumping through bumpers tech and general physics bounciness in this game that would have been useful game knowledge to have developed on my end after having played lots of Mang levels over the years. But nope, we retained none of it. Absolutely none of it. There was an old version of the puzzle that didn't have the bumper part. Yeah, I wonder if this was actually some kind of anti-cheese then. Maybe the bumper was there specifically to prevent the thing that I am doing now that was perhaps not theoretically supposed to be doable. I don't know. The Super World was originally uploaded right before the release of the Switch 2 back in June of last year, but the current version is current as of August of last year, and so there was definitely some kind of debug or revision that went on. Okay, this is going to have to be a shell jump. Good, clean. Now we have to do a single column jump. It's okay if we lose the shell at this point because we can get more. But this is the trap that we fell in earlier. You cannot toss the shell up to activate that because the P-switch locks it in until the shell recovers, and then the shell obstructs you on the way up. So it has to be a spring on the up throw. Does that kill the Wiggler though? It doesn't kill the Wiggler though. Wait, that doesn't work then. Unless you can respawn the spring. No, that doesn't work. Wait, that doesn't work either then, because then you don't kill a Wiggler, so something is wrong. No, okay, no, I understand, I understand. Wait, because let's say you have shell over, okay. You throw a shell, not a spring, I think. We need to not get trapped on the spring in the corner, but am I at that point? Well, can I get within despawn range of the shell? I don't think I can. But what if you have that whole interaction with the bomb and you are off screen for the shell recovery? Okay, there actually is something we have not figured out here yet then, because either the Wiggler gets trapped there or the shell gets trapped there, and then so we need to work this out, because at that point the only throwable object we have is the spring. And the P-switch pretty much goes instantly, so it does lock you out. So one thing I could do is jump on top of the spring, go up throw the shell at the very last minute. No, it's still gonna wake up though before. Yeah, it's still going to wake up. It's still going to be a problem. But if we can get the shell to flip, have the block spin disabled by that point when it wakes up. Because if it wakes up and it flips, then it's able to walk off the top, right? Then it's able to get up to the top and walk off. But then do we have a way to flip the shell at that point? I'm not sure we do. So something is out of sequence here. The only thing I can think of is that you flip using this one. That means you have to avoid that one the whole time, and then you have to find some other way to press the P-switch, perhaps. I don't really see this block as being avoidable in terms of giving me a second opportunity to flip a shell. It's too bad we don't have a way to just take a flipped shell and just bounce it so that it stays in the flipped position for as long as we need it to be there. Because the thing is, the spring has to wind up under the cloud in order to send you through to the bumper. There's no other way to get that. I wonder what we can make of the fact that an older version of the puzzle didn't have the bumper. I wonder if the bumper was supposed to specifically prevent you from hitting with Mario there. But we have a problem regardless, which is that we have access to Spring and Buzzy at the end. Up-throwing the Spring does not kill the Wiggler. Up-throwing the Buzzy has the Buzzy stay in position. And doesn't get it out of the way. I'm trying to see if there's a way that I can get Mario above the P block. At the time that the P-switch activates. If there is a way to do that, well then, I don't know, we have to map it the whole thing again. Because I wonder if the viability of my current solution has actually hit a dead end, or if there's any other thing we're supposed to do with that. I mean, we know that so long as we have access to a spring, we can always spawn more Buzzies. But do we have a way to flip a Buzzy at that point? A P-switch will be activated after an up throw, which means that you'll be locked into this area. If you're locked into that area, you can't come here to the left and take advantage of this coin having flipped. And regardless... So, here's the thing. If you had a whole sequence of bomb and this is still a coin, then this coin becomes a block that you can use for more shell flipping afterwards. But only when the P-switch is active. If the P-switch is active, then you're kind of locked in and you can't get a bomb across anyway. P-switch deactivates, you come across, drop the bomb. At the time we still have a shell over here. If we still have access to the spring by recovering it from up top, then we can get back into this state here where you can spawn more shells and grab more shells whenever you want. So what I should be trying to figure out is if there is a way I can despawn that shell before wake up. Like if I go, well, you can't go off screen, it just doesn't go far enough left. So I see two possibilities. I see that if you can get a flip on that shell where you have it in an upside down position, then it jumps up and crawls over. And then that's the finish. However, that depends on it having it in a position where it will actually flip. And I don't see, unless we sustain that original shell that we flipped and just flip it again and again with perfect timing, I don't see how that's going to happen. Like, how do you get back to that shell quickly enough that you can just continue to keep it down? Because if you can get that shell to stay upside down at all times, then you can up throw into the block there and that'll be fine because I think it will actually jump out of that position. But is that just a timing issue then to maintain an upside down shell that remains upside down throughout the level? Or will we have access to some other way to flip it? Because this coin to the left here, that's not staying after this point. That's not really going to help. And without the spring, I don't see a good way to sustain that shell in an upside down position once flipped. When we bounce off of it, for instance, it does stay upside down, but then we need to cycle back to it and bounce on it again. And I don't see that we can do that when also trying to deal with the bomb. Because we don't have a way to obtain the bomb if we try to mess around with that. So let's see. No, we didn't want to do that, but oh well. Let's see what happens. That was clearly just straight up wrong, so never mind that. But let's go back to this. So there's still something to figure out about the last step, and it takes so long to get back to the last step that we'll probably have to make quite a few attempts at it before we actually straighten out a method. Because what else can you respawn other than the bomb? I wonder if there's a way to despawn and regain the spring, but no, you can't despawn anything that's on the wiggler column on the right because it just remains on camera at all times. And so it's going to be a problem no matter what you do. If we could find a way to flip a second shell after the P-switch sequence, that might be best, but I don't see how that's going to go. Given how quickly these shells wake up. Actually, let's just take a look here. Flipped at 425. Yeah, the thing about the flip is that it is slightly faster than the 10 seconds for the P-switch. It's closer to 8 seconds or so. So the thing is, you cannot race against a shell and come back here and keep it upside down. It's not going to work that way. I wonder if it's viable to maintain this block, though. Probably not. Okay. So, here we are in this state. Let's let this wake up first so we can do something with it. So, now we need to figure this out. Up throw with a spring immediately obviously doesn't work. Trapping the spring here and getting on top of it traps you in that column and obviously doesn't work. Up throw of this shell gives you a buzzy that is trapped there. If a buzzy is trapped there, then you have a problem because you can't respawn a second one to the left. So do we have a way to flip this shell? That's the question. I don't see a way to do it. Oh, here's one thing that we should try. When you have a shell that's been disabled and you up throw it, it does affect the wake up timing. P-switch, again, is going to lock you out of there for 10 seconds. It guarantees that the shell is going to respawn. But I wonder if I'm able to jump through it if I kind of jump up to the point where I'm as close as possible to Wiggler. I feel like I'm within bomb range if I do that. Like jump on top of the spring and up throw when you're above the P-switch. Above the P-block. That is very risky. But basically, yeah, and actually it creates a bit of a problem as well, because if you're on top of the P-block, then... Can I jump into the shell and pick it up before it respawn? I'm not sure. But maybe I can still do repeated up throws with it or something. And like on a single column, you know, you just throw it in place. So the idea is that Mario also goes up. You stand on the P-block until the bomb goes off, and then you re-grab the shell and just kind of keep it down with more interactions. I don't think it shakes awake at this point, does it? Because to throw... I'm trying to remember, because this is also a Maker 1, Maker 2 difference thing, where... Yeah, it does seem like you disable the wake up if you just keep throwing it. So, I'm going to try it. Now, this is going to be a little bit committal, and we died to it walking over anyway, so never mind. But the idea is that I'm going to try to jump up the spring, and with a bit of a minimal bounce on it, I should be able to get slightly above an up throw, and does that send me too high? It might, in terms of getting me within bomb range. Deeply annoying in some ways that Mario would be in bomb range, but the shell would not. But yeah, I don't know. There's a better way to do that last bit. Because it seems like, you know, there's no way to really try it without just blowing the entire attempt. This coin obviously has been staring at me the whole time as one where if you turn it into another block, that one slot over it is very suspicious, like you're supposed to use that block as a flipping point if you don't pick up that coin too early. But we never figured out a good way to use that in the sequence. It does open the possibility of a second flipping point, but it requires you to be on the left side of the level when the P-switch is activated, and currently I don't see a way to do that with the second P-switch that is activated from the up throw later on. Not really a clean way to do it. You know, if you do just a flat throw like this from the grounded position, that's how high it goes. Okay, let's think about this. We clearly have one more complication to sort out that has not been dealt with. But a lot of that right side column makes it look as though you do need a shell to jump out of an upside down position and flip out of the way. That would be the most sensible outcome. I just don't see how to set it up at the moment. I don't know if we're missing something about how to keep a shell flipped for even longer. Because it's not like we can bounce it on a spring when a spring is already tucked over on the left side.